Jake, Willie Silly, man, aka Mr. Take It Easy. Before you end up like busy, make sure y'all follow my Twitch, man. Subscribe to my second channel. Everything you need to know about your boy Jay is in the description down below. Now, for all my new subscribers and new viewers, you know what I'm saying? I do have, a lot of videos, scary videos in the scary playlist section, man. I'm going to keep it a beezy. You know what I mean? I got like over 200, man. It's going to take you like 2 months, man, like 2 months or something, probably 1 month or something. You know what I mean? But my most viewed playlist section, bro, is the scary reactions, bro. You know what I mean? It's probably like at 49,000 right now, 49,000 to be exact. You know what I'm saying? But I appreciate all the love and support. I got to say that almost every video about the playlist section, bro, because I do not want you scrambling and jambling. You know what I'm saying? I got 2.5K videos. I've been doing this for a little minute. You know what I'm saying? So you ain't going to find whatever you want to find, bro, just scrambling and jambling. But we got 3 horrifying, true babysitting horror stories. And this is one thing that I will not do when it comes to my children. I will not let my child be babysitted by anybody. You hear the craziest things happening to children when it comes to, I don't trust no strangers, bro. And when I have children, I won't even be working. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to make sure when I have children, everything is right. Everything is stable. Where I don't have to have a babysitter. You know what I'm saying? The only person that's going to be babysitting my child, bro, is my mother. You know what I'm saying? That's it. And my pops. That's it. You know what I'm saying? No stranger. I don't know how y'all do that, bro. Y'all let strangers babysit your kids. I don't know how y'all do that, bro. You know what I'm saying? Ain't nobody babysitting my kid. Care who you is. I don't care how long you been babysitting. I don't care about none of that. Care about your experience. You don't know who you let inside your house.
I'm 29 now, and I've had a lot of horrific experiences, but nothing sits in my brain the way one night from when I was 15 does. It was my first real babysitting job that wasn't just watching a cousin for an hour while my aunt ran to the store. This was a family friend, the kind where your parents know their parents, and everyone assumes it's basically safe by default. They're cool with me telling this story online. So their names are Mark and Diane, and their son Charlie was 5. They lived in a nice house in a quiet, normal neighborhood. Looking back, that's part of why it messed with me. It didn't feel like the kind of house where anything bad could happen. It felt like a normal place, like where I grew up. It was a Friday night in early fall. My parents dropped me off around 6:30, and Mark and Diane were already dressed up. Mark shook my hand like I was applying for a job at his office, and Diane kept calling me a lifesaver. Mark and Diane went over the basics, like when we eat, what we eat, when his light's out, and keeping his door cracked open. If he has to use the bathroom, walk him there, because he sometimes gets scared in the hallway at night.
Man, bro, you better get your butt up, man, and go walk to the bathroom your dang self. You know what I mean? That's the problem. That's why these kids be growing up so soft, because of y'all parents. Okay, every time you want to go to the bathroom, okay, I'm going to go get you. You know what I mean? Y'all be catering to every need that your child want, man. You know what I mean? That's why you grow up and be a soft cupcake. Me, when I was little, I wanted to go to the bathroom. I went to the bathroom. See, my dad ain't cater me. You know what I'm saying? I had it different as a child. You feel me? Had to learn things the hard way. Do you know what I mean? I ain't finna, man, you better get your butt up, man, and walk to that dang bathroom. I don't care how dark it is. You know what I'm saying? I don't care how dark it is. But get your butt up and go to that bathroom, man. Piss me the freak off.
Mark also pointed out the locks. There was a front door lock they never used because they came in through the garage.
I got a feeling that Mark is a freak.
The back door, though, was the one I'd use if I needed to step out onto the deck. He mentioned I'd have to lock both the locks, and he pointed to the deadbolt up top and the regular doorbell lock underneath. I nodded like I understood. I thought it was obvious. I thought a lock was a lock. They left around 7. As soon as their car pulled away, Charlie asked if we could play board games and hide and seek. And the hide and seek I tried to talk him out of because the house was bigger than I expected, and I didn't want him hiding somewhere stupid and getting hurt. We compromised by playing a simple card matching game at the coffee table, then a video game on the little console in the family room. It was one of those kids games where you basically just run around collecting stuff and the character can't really die. Around 7:45, I heated up the food Diana had left. It was mac and cheese and chicken nuggets, basically babysitter cheat code. Charlie ate in front of the TV, which his parents probably didn't normally let him do, but I wasn't trying to be the strict babysitter on my first paid job. After dinner, we brushed his teeth and went to his room. His room was on the second floor. The house had this wide hallway that ran past a couple bedrooms and a bathroom. Charlie's room was at the end, and it had a small closet with sliding doors. Inside, from what I could tell earlier when he grabbed a toy, it was mostly little kid clothes and some storage bins on the top shelf. His room had a hamper in the corner by his dresser, one of those tall ones with a lid. There was a nightlight on his dresser that glowed soft yellow. I tucked him in and read him a short book, and as I was walking out, he asked if I'd stay in the hallway for a minute. I stood outside his door and listened to him rustle around for maybe 30 seconds. Then his voice went quiet, and I figured he was settled. I left his door cracked like they said. Diane had showed me the guest bedroom where I could hang out once Charlie was asleep. It was down the hallway from Charlie's room, closer to the stairs. It had a small TV, like a spare room TV, and a bed with a comforter that looked like it was never used. I turned the TV on and flipped through the channels until I found some random show. I lay on top of the bed, shoes off, phone in my pocket. It felt like the job was basically done, but that lasted maybe 40 minutes. I was half watching the TV when I heard soft footsteps in the hallway. I looked up, and Charlie was standing in the doorway of the guest room. He was rubbing his eyes and holding his stuffed animal. His face didn't look sleepy though, he looked scared. I asked what was wrong. He didn't come in at first, he just whispered, "Chris." I motioned him over, and he walked in slowly, like he didn't want to turn his back to the hallway. He said he heard something in his closet. I tried to assure him it was likely a house settling noise, that houses creak a lot. He shook his head fast, saying no, it was more like a scratch. I still knew it had to just be typical toddler imagination. I told him there were no monsters in his closet and asked if he wanted me to check. He nodded, and I walked him back to his room. I turned his light on fully and looked at the closet. The sliding doors were closed. I slid one open and peeked inside. Admittedly, I took just a quick peek because I knew no one was in there, and I just saw a bunch of clothes. I even pushed some clothes aside like I was actually searching. I slid the door closed and saw relief on his face. I tucked him back in and went back to the guest room. But 15 minutes later, I heard footsteps again. This time, Charlie came in quicker.
I think Charlie's a freak. You know what I'm saying? But no, though, man. Freaking kids don't lie, man. You know what I'm saying? One thing kids don't do is lie. So one thing they don't do is lie. Like if a kid think you ugly, oh, you're ugly. If a kid think you ugly, you better look yourself in the mirror. If a kid calls you ugly, look yourself in the mirror. Boy, you ugly. You know what I'm saying? One thing about kids, they ain't gonna lie. They're too innocent to lie. You know what I'm saying? They're too innocent to lie. They really don't know what wrong is. You gotta understand. They don't know what wrong is yet. You get older, then you can be like, yeah, that mother effer right there, liar right there. But when they be little, bro, they don't know how to lie. All they know is truth. All they know is pureness. You know what I mean? So when parents be thinking kids be lying, they be blowing me, man. He too young to lie. He too young to even know what lying is. Why you finna come lying to me talking about hearing some scratching at his door? You know what I mean? He don't even know what lying is. This little kid too young to lie, bro. So the man say hearing scratching. But I ain't finna check what that scratching is. You know what I'm saying? Did you miss me? You know what I mean? We finna get out the house. You know, one thing about Jay, man, I don't play Captain Savior Hero. You hear scratching, all right. Go and get out the house right quick. You know what I'm saying? Get out the house. Let's call mommy and daddy. You know what I mean? I'm finna leave immediately. Mommy and daddy, if you come home right now, I'll leave Chris right where he's staying. You know what I'm saying? You come home right now, what's the baby name? What, Charlie? I don't think his name Chris, I think his name Charlie. Either you come home right now, or I leave Charlie right where he stand. I'm that type. I'm gonna leave that baby home alone. You better come get your child. You say you heard some scratching in his door, and I don't want to go see what the scratching is. I'm a scared babysitter. So whatever you're doing, put the forks down, cancel the movies. You better come home immediately, or you don't have no babysitter.
He was more upset. He said, "Chris, the closet door moved."
Oh, shit.
I sat up and tried not to show annoyance, even though I felt it for a second. I tried to stay patient. I said, "Okay, let's go check." We walked back down the hallway, and when we got to his room, I stopped in the doorway. The closet door was fully open. One of the sliding panels was pushed all the way to the side. I stared at it for a second, and I remember my stomach doing this little drop. Not because I thought someone was in there right away, but because it didn't match what I remembered. I knew I closed it. I looked at Charlie and asked why he opened that in a tone that would imply I'm not happy, but the way he swore he didn't, it didn't come across like he was lying.
You know how to lie.
I walked over and slid the closet door shut. But the thing is, the way it closed, it didn't feel like it could have drifted open on its own. I gave Charlie a look meant to imply that I knew he was playing around with the door, maybe trying to scare me. I tucked him back in and told him he was fine and to go to sleep. I left the room, and on the way back to the guest bedroom, I caught myself listening for sounds behind me, like someone was walking in the hallway. I told myself to stop being stupid. I was 15 in a family friend's house on a safe street. About 10 minutes later, instead of footsteps, I heard Charlie call out. It wasn't a scream, but rather a shaky raised voice like he was trying not to yell but needed me. It came from his room. I got up and walked out. As I got closer, I could hear him crying softly. I stepped into his room and saw him sitting in bed with tears on his face. I immediately looked at the closet. The door was closed. That should have been reassuring, but it wasn't. I said, "Hey buddy, what happened?" He didn't answer right away. He just lifted his arm and pointed toward the corner of the room. I followed where he was pointing, and for a second, my brain didn't process what I was seeing. There was a hamper in that corner, and behind it, pressed into the narrow space between the hamper and the wall, was a person crouched down. They were hiding, trying to make themselves as small as possible. The first thing I saw was a shoulder, then the shoes, then his partially hidden face, but I could see his eyes looking straight at me. The whole thing lasted maybe 2 seconds before my body reacted. I didn't scream. I simply decided it was time to move, so I grabbed Charlie with both arms, yanked him out of bed, and picked him up like he weighed nothing. I backed toward the door, never taking my eyes off that corner. The person surprisingly didn't move at first. They stayed crouched, as if they stayed still enough we'd forget he was there. I ran us toward the guest room and locked the door. I did my best to keep Charlie quiet as I called 911. I told the operator there was someone in the house. I gave the address and said I was babysitting, and there was a man in the kid's room. The operator asked if the intruder had a weapon. I said I didn't know. She asked if we were safe. I said we were locked in a bedroom upstairs. She told me to stay on the line. I kept expecting the doorknob to start turning or expecting the door to shake. The operator kept talking to me to keep me calm, asking me to describe the person, but I couldn't. All I could say was I saw the person's eyes hidden behind a hamper. The eventual sound of distant sirens getting closer was the first time I was ever relieved to hear police sirens in my life. The operator told me to wait until an officer came to my door and identified themselves. When the police finally came upstairs, one of them knocked and said, "Chris?" because I guess dispatch had my name. I unlocked the door and opened it, and 2 officers were there with flashlights. They looked past me into the room, then at Charlie. They had already done a sweep downstairs and didn't see anyone. They didn't have to kick the door down because the front door was wide open. They checked every possible hiding spot in the house.
The man, he ran out.
Whoever it was had left. They said based on the timeline, he probably slipped out fast when I ran, went down the stairs, and ran out the front door. When Mark and Diane got home, they arrived to the police cars outside and officers in their living room. A lot of emotions filled the room for sure. Mark asked me questions I couldn't really answer, just like the police did. A cop asked about the locks and entry points. Mark immediately went to the back door and checked it. I followed because I felt like I needed to see. The deadbolt at the top was unlocked. Mark looked at me and asked, "Did you lock both locks like I said?" I said, "I locked the bottom one." He said the bottom one pops if the knob gets jiggled. That's why he told me both. He wasn't raising his voice, but I knew he was upset. However, he didn't stay upset for long and was grateful I saved Charlie from danger.
That's what I'm saying right there, though. You know what I'm saying? Y'all see what I'm saying? I mean, he got the right to be upset, bro. You know what I'm saying, bro? I said 2 locks, man. I said lock the 2 locks, boy. You know what I'm saying? But you being such a freak, you being such a dummy, you almost got my son killed, boy. You will not be here again. I repeat, you will not be here again. You know what I mean? Straight up. But hey, y'all, it's so important, y'all, to lock your doors, bro. I don't care if you're staying in a nice neighborhood, bro. Lock your doors, man. No doors should be unlocked. Basement, whatever, even your windows. Lock your windows, man. You're not safe in your house. All right, stop thinking that you're safe in your house. That is false. You know what I'm saying? You're not safe anywhere. That's the reality when it comes to life. You're not safe anywhere. Be aware everywhere. Everywhere, man.
The worst part
because we never know who this man was crouching in his corner. We didn't know who this was. You know what I mean? This could have been a murderer. This could have been a serial killer. This could have been a rapist. You know what I mean? You just don't know who this person was in your corner, man.
Thinking about what would have happened if Charlie hadn't come to get me, if he'd stayed in his room trying to be brave while that person was in there, or if I'd been downstairs messing around on my phone, not paying attention, or if I'd told Charlie to go back to bed without checking. So to parents or babysitters or anyone out there who takes care of kids, don't always dismiss the things they say as just their imagination.
Bro, I know this, bro. You ain't got to tell me that, bro. I know this. I know kids don't lie. When I was a kid, I didn't lie.
The third time I babysat a—
Shoot! Had to go ahead and just revert what I just said. I ain't gonna cap to it. You know what I'm saying? I kind of lied a little bit, but I was a liar. I told you, man, I ain't gonna lie. I was a different kid, bro. Like, I was a different kid, man. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna lie. I was a different kid. I was a lying kid. I was a very bad, malicious kid. I ain't gonna lie. Like a lot of kids like really be good, you know, be good kids. But I was just like a bad, malicious kid. So me being bad and malicious, bro, it kind of just made me a liar. You know what I mean? Like I liked getting in trouble. You know what I mean? It felt fun. Like I felt like good was boring and getting in trouble was fun. It was just something about getting in trouble. It was just something about breaking the rules. You know what I'm saying? And I'm kind of still like, I'm not like that, bro, but I'm kind of still like that, bro. I think that's just me, bro. Not breaking the rules, bro, but basically doing what the freak I want to do. You know what I'm saying? So me being like that as a kid caused me to get in trouble. I just do what the freak I wanted to do. Even when I got jobs, bro, I just did what the freak I wanted to do, bro. Like I wasn't harming nobody. You know what I mean? I ain't harming nobody. I ain't hurting nobody. I just do what the freak I want to do. If I don't want to do that, I'm not going to do that. That's why I used to get so many referrals at school, bro. Because if I don't want to stay in class, you know what I'm saying? I ain't finna stay in class. You know what I'm saying? I ain't finna like, you know, walk out of class, but shoot, I'm going to keep asking to go to that bathroom. Or if I don't feel like going to class, I'm not going to go to class. You know what I mean? I'm going to skip. That's just always how I been, bro. I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm just still like that, bro. You know what I mean? That's why I say I couldn't work for nobody. You know what I mean? Because if I didn't feel like working, bro, I'm not gonna work. You know what I'm saying? I didn't give a dang who came around. Because all I look at it is like, okay, you fire me, that's it. You ain't God. You can't destroy me. You can't take life from me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what can you do to me other than fire me? Okay, cool. Fire me. That's all you can do. Ooh, I can get another job next day. One thing about me, y'all, I used to get jobs like this, bro. Oh, you the only job in America? You fire me? Okay, I'll go apply for another job. Fire me. Know what I mean? I ain't change up when them corporates, I don't give a dang who you is. If I don't feel like working, I ain't working, G.
AJ was the only time I was ever asked to stay overnight at someone else's house, and it's also the last time I ever babysat for anyone at all. I was 17, a senior in high school.
I never
and I had
babysit
already watched AJ
day in
twice
my
before.
life.
He was 8, quiet, and the kind of kid who didn't really look at you when you talked to him. The first time I met his mom, she told me he was a loner and mostly kept to himself, so I shouldn't expect much interaction. She said that like it was a good thing, like it meant the job would be easy. And honestly, the first 2 times kind of were. I barely had to do anything besides heat up food and remind him when it was time to get ready for bed. He'd just sit in his room playing video games like Grand Theft Auto for hours. The
Nothing
third
wrong
time
with that.
was different because his mom asked if I could spend the night. She said she had to be out of town for work and wouldn't be back until late the next morning. She sounded stressed on the phone, like she didn't have many options, so I said yes. I figured it would be the same as before, just longer and more money. When I got to the house that afternoon, she rushed through the instructions at the kitchen counter while AJ was already upstairs. She said there was frozen pizza in the freezer, and he usually fed himself breakfast cereal, and I could sleep in the extra room at the end of the hallway. She thanked me like 3 times before she even left. When she did, I called up the stairs to let AJ know I was there, even though he already knew, and he just yelled back a short "yeah" without coming down. For the next few hours, I barely saw him. I could hear the video games through the ceiling, the sounds of gunshots and cars crashing in his game. At one point, I went upstairs to check on him and found him sitting on the floor of his room, controller in hand, eyes locked on the screen. He didn't look away when I asked if he was okay. He just nodded while staring at the TV. I went back downstairs and tried to watch something in the living room.
Ain't gonna lie, AJ, you know, I don't see nothing wrong with AJ. You know what I mean? That's kind of how I am, bro. I ain't gonna lie, you feel me? Like, you know, it's just, shoot, AJ, I just see AJ just like being by himself, bro. You know, not really an interactive kid, you know what I'm saying? He ain't really gonna speak unless spoken to. I don't see a problem with AJ, man. You know what I'm saying? I look at AJ like a cool kid. Unless AJ ain't a cool kid.
It felt weird being in someone else's house overnight. Around 7, I made the pizza and called AJ down. When he came down, he didn't say hi or anything.
Dang.
He just grabbed 2 slices, looks at me with this expression I still can't fully describe, like I'd done something to annoy him just by existing, and then went back upstairs without a word.
Hey.
He was acting unfriendlier than usual this time. I stood there in the kitchen holding my own plate, feeling awkward and kind of unwelcome in a house I was supposed to be in charge of for the night. I figured he was just a weird kid and didn't take it personally. After I cleaned up, I went upstairs to get ready for bed. The guest room was basic and small. I left the door half open because I didn't like the idea of being fully closed in.
Hey, bro, like I said, I don't understand how you sleep with open doors, bro. I don't get it. Like, people that sleep with open doors, bro, you're different, bro. You know what I'm saying? Crack doors, open doors. I don't know how you do it, bro. I just don't know how you do it.
I was sitting on the bed talking to my friend Bree when I got this strange feeling like I was being watched. I looked up and saw AJ's head slowly move back out of view from the crack in the doorway. He had just been standing there looking in. I laughed a little because it startled me more than anything, and I called out to him, asking what he was doing. He didn't answer. I heard soft footsteps go down the hallway toward his room.
AJ a freak. So AJ not who I thought he was. See, I thought AJ was just a cool, laid-back kid. Don't like interaction like that. You know, we'll talk to if he was spoken to, but not finna start a conversation. But AJ's a freak. So he one of them freakish, quiet kids. Oh, okay. So he not one of them cool, quiet kids. He one of them freakish, quiet kids. I mean, do you gotta bust AJ head open? Because one thing about me, I don't care how old you is. Play crazy with me, I'll bust your head open. You know what I'm saying? Straight up, man. I would have went out of the room. Hey, man, AJ! You know what I'm saying? I would have went in that room, would have made some noise, man. If I see you standing at the crack of my door again, looking at me weird, it's gonna be a problem. Oh, AJ gonna speak tonight. He gonna speak tonight. Matter of fact, I would have left right there. Warning sign, red flag, red flag. I don't ignore that right there. You know what I'm saying? Why am I on my phone? I'm talking to my friend on the phone. I have my door cracked and I have this little freak watching me the whole time. And then when I look up, he's stir off the light. I'm going immediately. Look, man, I'm sorry you're out of town. You know, you're out of town. I understand. You know what I mean? But I cannot babysit this weird little freak. You know, forget the pay, forget you. You're blocked, I'm gone. I'm leaving your kid right where you stay, man. I don't give a dang about AJ.
I remember thinking it was kind of funny, like he was just being a nosy kid, and I didn't think much of it after that.
Nah.
Around 11, I put my phone down and turned off the lamp. I rolled onto my side and closed my eyes, trying to fall asleep.
There go
I
AJ.
don't know how much time passed before I felt like I wasn't alone in the room. I opened my eyes and saw a dark shape at the foot of the bed.
This freak.
It took a few seconds for me to process that it was someone standing there. I let out a scream before I could stop myself and scrambled for the lamp. When I turned it on, I saw AJ standing at the end of the bed, completely still. The look on his face is still hard to describe. He looked annoyed, yet also scared or regretful of what he was about to do. Both of his hands were behind his back.
Bro got a knife.
I sat up and asked him what he was doing in there. He didn't answer. I told him to show me what he had behind his back. He shook his head no, still not breaking eye contact. That scared me more than if he yelled or cried. I got out of bed and moved toward him, telling him he needed to go back to his room. When I reached him, I grabbed his arm and turned him slightly, and that's when I saw the handle of a large kitchen knife in his hand. That's when I screamed again and covered my mouth with my hand without even meaning to. I yelled at him to get out of the room, to go, to leave. My whole body was shaking. He didn't argue, he just ran out into the hallway, still holding the knife. I rushed to the door, slammed it shut, and locked it. I fumbled with my phone, trying to call his mom because my hand—
Bro, like, do you understand this man could have took y'all life? Y'all understand how crazy that is? This man could have stabbed her immediately. If she didn't wake up, bro, possibly she would have been dead. She was sleeping. She was vulnerable. Imagine if she didn't wake up in time to see AJ standing on the side of her bed with a knife. I would have beat the brakes off AJ. Would have hit him right in his nose. I would have beat AJ like he was a grown man. I would have seen nothing but a grown man, you know what I mean, an intruder. You know what I mean? And I would have beat the brakes off AJ. Like a grown man. Wanna be a grown man? Okay, I'm gonna show you what a grown man is.
The words out. I told her AJ came into my room with a knife while I was sleeping. There was a long silence on the other end. Then her voice changed completely. She sounded horrified, like she had been expecting something bad, but not this bad. She kept apologizing.
So you know your son a freak. You know your son a freak and you set me up to be killed. That's why you went out of town. You went out of town because you scared of your son too, huh? That's why. So you knew your son was a freak and you set me up to be killed, you whore?
And over, saying she was so sorry and that she believed me.
Okay.
I told her I couldn't stay there. I didn't care about the money or anything else. I just needed someone else to come watch him. She didn't argue at all. She said she would call her ex-husband and have him come right away. I stayed locked in that room for almost an hour, scared shitless. Eventually, there was a knock at the front door and a man's voice calling AJ's name. I cracked the guest room door and saw a man I recognized from a photo in the house. He went straight down the hall toward AJ's room without saying much to me. I grabbed my bag, walked past them without looking into AJ's room, and left the house as fast as I could. His mom sent me the money through Venmo later that night, along with another long apology, but I never went back there. I never even babysat for another family after that. I feel like I was actually close to becoming a news article online about a babysitter getting murdered by a child.
I don't trust people, bro. I don't trust little kids either. I don't trust little kids. I would have beat the brakes off your son, I promise you. I love my life. I love my life. I don't look at it when he's just a little kid. I love my life. I told you I love my life, and I would have did AJ dirty. Picked him up, bro, I'm telling you, AJ would have got, boy, imagine the thing that would did AJ in my mind. It's going across my mind while I did that, little boy.
When my sister asked me to watch her kids overnight.
Trying to take my life?
Her husband was at a wedding a few hours away.
I get offended by that junk, bro. I get offended by that little boy trying to take my life. You trying to take my life? What you think I am, boy? Trying to take my life? Would have grabbed that boy. Oh, hit you right in your face, boy. You know what I'm saying? Straight up.
I babysat my niece Emma and my nephew Lucas
What the heck wrong with you? AJ!
Emma was 6, quiet and sensitive, and Luke was 9, more talkative but still easy. They live in a normal suburban house in a quiet.
Bro said, chill, Jay. It's not that serious. We got a freak in the chat. We got a freak. Chill, Jay. It's not that serious. Oh, shoot. You know what I mean? Just expose his freakness. You know what I mean? I know you ain't try to expose your freakness, but you kind of expose your freakness a little bit. You know what I mean? Chill, Jay. It's not that serious. So a child standing at the edge of my bed with a knife in his hand ain't that serious. You know what I mean? Freak alert, freak alert. Yeah, we got a freak alert.
Not far from our childhood home. My sister walked.
Get off my video, you freak.
Before they left, since this time I'd be staying overnight. Leftover Chinese food for dinner,
freak.
And no scary shows and bed by 9. She reminded me Emma sometimes got nervous at night and might call for me once or twice. After they left, the kids and I ate in the living room and watched a movie. It felt like a completely normal night. Around 9, I took them upstairs. Their bedrooms were across the hall from each other, with the bathroom in between. I tucked Emma in first. She asked if I'd leave her door open a little and keep the hallway light on. Lucas just rolled over and told me goodnight like he was already half asleep. I went downstairs and turned on the TV, keeping the volume low so they wouldn't hear. Around like 9:30 to 10, I heard footsteps upstairs. I figured Emma needed something. I started up the stairs, but before I got halfway, I saw her walking along the balcony toward the top step. She was standing there in her pajamas looking down at me. I asked what was wrong. She said I already came in her room and told her to go back to sleep, but she hadn't been able to. I stopped on the stairs and told her I hadn't been upstairs since I put them to bed. She thought I was joking at first. She said I stood in her doorway a few minutes ago and told her everything was fine in a whisper. I told her maybe she was dreaming it and walked her back to her room. I checked her closet and under the bed, even though I knew nothing would be there. She finally settled back in, but she kept watching me as I left, like she wasn't convinced. I went back downstairs, feeling slightly uneasy, but still telling myself kids mix dreams with reality all the time. About 20 minutes later, Lucas came down, rubbing his eyes. He asked why I came into his room. I felt a chill go through me. I told him I didn't. He said I stood by his dresser and looked at him, then walked out without saying anything. I tried to keep my voice calm and told him he must have been half asleep. But
he
now
dreaming
this was
too?
Weird, because both of them said pretty similar things.
Exactly.
Instead of going back to bed, he stayed next to me on the couch now. That was when I started to really listen to the house. Every small sound felt louder. I turned the TV off, and the silence literally made my ears ring. Lucas noticed me doing this, and I think it started to scare him when I told him to shush for a second. I heard something upstairs. It was light footsteps running, and then I saw her running across the balcony upstairs and then racing down the stairs, screaming Uncle Dan a bunch of times. When she got to the living room, I asked her what's wrong, and she started crying, saying there's someone upstairs. I think this was around the time my heart really started racing. They weren't playing a little kid prank on me. She was crying genuine tears. I asked her why she thought there's someone upstairs, and she responded saying someone came in her room again and said goodnight, but it didn't sound like me. I think by now, I was internally freaking the fuck out, but I told them to keep calm. I didn't want Emma to cause Lucas to start crying now too. I told them to wait down here. I'll go check upstairs and be right back.
We're gonna go check upstairs. See, it's one thing we don't do is we don't go to danger. One thing you can't do is go to danger. Never, you know what I mean, go to danger. If you say somebody upstairs, okay, the first thing you do, get out the house. You gotta get out the house. Never go to danger. Never go to danger. Rule number 1, never go to danger.
And that's exactly what I planned to do. But I wasn't going up there without a weapon at this point. I went to the kitchen, secretly grabbed a knife, and placed it in front of me as I walked back into the living room and then up the stairs. The kids were still on the couch. I made it to the upstairs balcony that overlooks the living room. I did a little march as I walked across it to try to make them laugh, but it didn't work. As I passed the balcony and into the upstairs foyer that led to the kids' bedrooms, I can't iterate enough just how much I wasn't expecting what happened next. I heard something in Emma's room. I peered inside and thought I saw something or someone. I quietly said hello so the kids wouldn't hear, but I wasn't expecting someone to respond. In a very weird, high-pitched voice, yet still sounding like a grown man, someone said, "Aren't they just so special?" The voice sounded like it belonged to someone with mental issues, maybe not fully there. I then realized what I was seeing in the bedroom was a really tall person standing next to Emma's bed now. I guess like 6'4". They looked to be like 6 inches taller than me. My heart was in my throat. I turned and ran down the stairs and grabbed the kids. I told them, "Put your shoes on now, we're leaving," and Emma started to cry even more. I quickly saw why. Peering around the wall up the balcony upstairs was this grotesque-looking man doing peekaboo with his hands toward the kids. I said forget the shoes and ran the kids outside with me in their socks. We ran to a house a couple doors down where I saw lights on inside, and I rang the bell 5 times. The lady who answered knew Lucas and Emma. I introduced myself and quickly explained the situation. She let us in immediately into safety. I got on the phone with 911 and stood on the front porch of this couple's house watching my sister's house. And as I saw that man casually strolling out of her house, walking down the walkway into the darkness of the street in the opposite way, the 911 operator told me not to engage him in any way and that officers would be there soon. But boy do I regret listening to that operator. I should have followed that fucking creep down the street. I should have been a man and beaten him to a pulp. But realistically, I didn't know if he was armed or not. And based on his voice, I choose to believe it was some mentally handicapped person who simply walked right into the house. I stayed on the stoop watching the man until he disappeared down an intersecting street, and I told the operator which street it was. She kept making it seem like the cops would be heading down that direction, but it took so long for them to arrive that by then, that man was gone, possibly into one of the houses in the vicinity for all anyone would know. I wasn't happy with the response time, and I let the police know that. I went into my sister's house with them to investigate, and nothing seemed out of the sorts, nor was anyone else inside. Of course, given the circumstances, I drove the kids home to my parents' house with me that night to sleep there. We weren't going to sleep in that house that night regardless. And of course, there was somehow blame put on me that the one night I was watching them, someone breaks into the house. However, I firmly believe that man was in there before I even got there. I did not go needlessly unlocking doors or anything like that. Ever since then, my sister and my brother-in-law have been nuts with the security cameras. They have at least 6 all over the house, inside and out. But honestly, who can blame them after this?
Yeah, the first thing you not gonna do is blame me for anything. You know what I'm saying? No, he was here before I even got here. You know what I'm saying? Straight up. That's why, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, watching people kids, man, don't watch nobody kids. And I can't let nobody watch my kids. You know what I'm saying? So we don't have that confrontation. So we don't have that, discussion. So we just save the, confrontation. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, man. Anyways, man, yeah, man, that right there was very, very retrieving. You know what I'm saying? Honestly, I don't even know what the freak I just